What's going on, my good people? Mike Hidalgo here. Thank you for joining us on another FCP Euro DIY. Today we're going to be working on a 2018 Volvo XC90. This DIY is going to be applicable to your Volvos equipped with both the T5 and T6 variants of the 2-liter 4-cylinder. In front of us, we have a liquid moly kit, which is available on fcpo.com. This kit consists of 6 liters of 0W20, along with a new Hanks filter, a drain plug crush washer, and all the needed O-rings to do this DIY. We recommend you do this service every 5,000 miles, and with our lifetime replacement guarantee in play, it makes it a little bit easier to stay on top of that interval. And for those of you looking to do a more comprehensive service, we have a 40,000 mile service kit available on fcpo.com, which has all the fluids and filters necessary to service your XC90 every 40,000 miles. You can do it once you hit 80, 120, so on and so on. Now, before we get into this DIY, let's take a look at some of the tools we're going to need for this job. For this job, you're going to need a 17mm socket or a wrench. We have a T30 and a 6mm hex that we're going to be using in conjunction with a 3/8 drive ratchet and a torque wrench. We also have CTA 2488. This is going to be helpful for removing our oil filter housing cap. A small pick or flathead screwdriver will be needed for the O-rings. Now we have our CTA no spill funnel along with the adapter for these Volvo engines, which are going to come in really handy. However, a regular funnel will work as well. Milwaukee makes quick work of the hardware that holds our splash shield underneath the car, and never hurts to have some brake clean. Not pictured here, but definitely needed for any fluid job / oil change you're ever going to do, is a catch pan. Now with that, let's go ahead and get started on this DIY. All right, my good people, we are under the hood of the XC90. Today we're going to be working on the lift. However, this is a super friendly driveway or garage floor job. To get started, I recommend that you remove the oil fill cap first. That's to break the vacuum seal so that when you drain the oil, it drains out a little bit easier. It also helps to drive the car a bit before doing this DIY. Just keep in mind that the oil is going to be hot, so you want to be mindful not to burn yourself. Give it just a few minutes to cool down if you'd like before you get into it. So with that, we'll set this cap to the side. And now let's hop under the XC90 and get to draining some oil. All right, my good people, under the XC90, the first thing we're going to do is remove our splash shield. It's held in by 10 T30s and 2 plastic like expanding rivets. The plastic rivets kind of just pinch into themselves and pulled out. It's just a rectangle. You just pinch them and they come apart. We'll do one in the front, one in the back. And then I'm just going to use impact to zap out the 10 T30s. You use a small 1/4-inch ratchet for this. All right, now that we have our splash shield off, we have a better view of where our oil filter is located and our engine oil drain plug. So let's go ahead and start by removing the drain plug and draining some oil. All right, my good people, we have a 17mm drain plug here. You can use a wrench or a socket on a ratchet, which is what we're going to use today. We're just going to break it free. Then we're going to position our catch pan underneath. Be mindful that since it's coming out at the side, it's going to come out as a stream and then slowly dwindle down. So make sure you account for that. You also want to make sure that your old crush washer comes off. We're going to give it a few minutes to drain out and then we'll come back to it. All right, my good people, while that is still draining, we're going to work on removing the oil filter. Volvo was kind enough to add a small drain plug to the oil filter housing cap to allow some of that oil in here to come out instead of covering your hands. Personally, I think we're still going to take a little bath in oil, but it doesn't hurt to try to use the drain plug. 6mm hex should fit in there nicely. We'll go ahead and remove this first. We have our catch pan situated, ready to rock underneath the housing here. All right, my good people, we have a small O-ring on the oil filter housing cap drain plug that you're going to want to replace should you be using this. It comes included with the Hanks oil filter. Go ahead and pop that old one off with a small pick. And then we have our new one that we can just go ahead and feed over. There is a small channel on this drain plug where the O-ring sits. So don't do that, otherwise that'll never seal and that will just leak. Make sure you use, or you can use a small pick or your fingers and just get the O-ring to seat over. And with that, we can go ahead and just feed it back into our cap. It's going to self-lubricate with the oil that's in the cap. And we're simply going to snug it up very gently. Again, using our 6mm hex. You're going to feel it bottom out. And then about a quarter turn or so is all you need once it's bottomed out. Now with that, we can take our oil filter housing removal wrench. Work on removing the filter. You can see there's still a fair bit amount of oil in there, but we avoided a bath on our hands, which is pretty cool. The cap itself also has an O-ring, which we can go ahead and replace now, also included with the oil filter. So we'll use our small pick, get the old O-ring off. And again, there is a channel here dedicated to the O-ring. Make sure you land your new one on there as well. And you can go ahead and just wipe the inside of this clean. With that, we can go ahead and remove our oil filter. Note the orientation. There are two different ends. One end has a small O-ring and opening. That one's gonna go up into the block. The other end has this slotted O-ring or housing on the outside that kind of engages with the cap. So we're just gonna go ahead and pull our old filter out. Give it a twist if you need to. Not that it should happen, but you wanna make sure that the old O-ring came out with the filter, which it did for us. And then we're just gonna go ahead and spritz a little bit of brake clean in there. You can just wipe it down first. Get the majority of the oil, old oil out from in here. You know, eradicating any remnants of the old oil. This is a bit overkill to some degree, but it is a nice newer car, so it helps to keep it nice from the beginning. All right, with that nice and clean, we can feed our new oil filter in. Doesn't hurt to lube up the O-ring before you feed it all the way in. It should look something like that, just held in by the O-ring there at the end. Then we can take our cap. Again, new O-ring on the cap, feed that in by hand. Then we're gonna torque this down to 25 Newton meters. If you don't have a torque wrench for this, usually once it's snugged up, that is gonna be tight enough. You can usually do them hand tight. We have the torque wrench here, so we'll go ahead and torque it down properly. There you go. So you can see, not a whole lot. All right, that's gonna situate the oil filter portion of this DIY. Now let's head back to the drain plug. We'll install our new crush washer with our drain plug and get that situated so we can put our splash shield on and then fill it back up with oil. You can reuse the drain plug, no problem. And just always, always start these by hand. Last thing you wanna do is strip this out. Then we can just go ahead and finish threading in our plug by hand. And then we're gonna torque this down to 38 Newton meters. We have our torque wrench and our 17mm socket. We'll set it to 38. So you can see, not a whole lot. Didn't take much more after we snugged it up by hand. All right, my good people, now we're gonna reinstall our splash shield. Again, just the opposite of the removal. Don't you just love when people say that? I'm gonna line up our holes. I'm gonna take the plastic expanding rivets first. Just pop those in, one in the back, one in the front, to hold the shield in place for us. And then we're gonna drive the 10 T30s in. Again, just using the Milwaukee Impact here, but you can just snug them up by hand as well. This just speeds it up a little bit. All right, my good people, with the underneath all buttoned up, let's head back up top and we'll work on filling this bad girl with some oil. We have our CTA attachment for our no spill funnel. Again, this is specifically for these Volvo engines. It threads in nicely into the top of the head there. Then we can situate our funnel in. And then we can pour in our 6 liters of 0W20. Don't forget that your 5-liter liquid moly bottles also have a sticker where you can put in your mileage interval, stick it on the corner of your windshield so you can keep track of the next time you need to do your oil change. All right, with that, we can go ahead and remove our funnel. Then we can remove our adapter, put our cap back on. All right, my good people, and with that, all that we have left to do is to hop inside the XC90 and reset our service light. So let's go ahead and do that now. All right, right now we are inside our XC90. With our foot off the brake, we're simply going to turn the start engine stop switch once. We'll see some lights come on the dash. Our fuel gauge will illuminate. Then we're going to hold down this lower button on the left-hand side of our steering wheel. And while we hold that, we're going to start the vehicle at the same time. And then we're going to wait, and we're going to look for the I for information to flash 3 times at us. After the 3rd flash, we can let go of the button, and that will go ahead and reset our interval. Maintenance reminder reset. And now we're good to go until the next time we do our oil change. And that is going to conclude this DIY for today, my good people. Overall, a really straightforward process on the SPA XC90. If you like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments on what we did today, or there's a specific DIY you want to see us do on this chassis, leave it in the comment section below. And if you like this DIY and you want to see more like them, please consider subscribing. We make new ones all the time. As always, thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.